He was like, it seems like it's real, but there's no way someone would be this dumb, you know? And I'm like, that's what I was thinking too, but here I am. So about 5 years ago, I really, for whatever reason, was just stuck on owning a G Wagon. I really, really wanted a G Wagon. And so I would hunt every day. That was still back in the popular Craigslist days. And so I found the one that was in my price range, which was very low at the time. I think the guy was asking like 22,750 or something obscure like that. It had a lot of underbody rust. It had like 180,000 miles. It was an '02 G500. Nothing particularly special. It was just a G-Wagon. So I reached out to the guy, and we were sort of going back and forth. I was getting, finding out the history on it. Where did he have it serviced? What he did. And he just sold a '69 Camaro SS. I actually verified all of this was true. Went as far as to call the shop where he had it serviced and asked to see if they could send me the receipts for it. And they did. The name, the number, the address, everything was there, and he serviced it there for years. So Craigslist, you definitely want to be careful. Even Marketplace today, really anything, even eBay, it doesn't matter. There's always going to be people out there trying to scam you. And Craigslist got kind of notorious for that for a while. So I was very hyper aware that this could be a situation. I needed to verify that the truck was real, this guy was real. I was kind of going through my due diligence thinking, I was not going to be that guy. The truck was definitely real. I was on the G-Wagon forum, and this had already been posted in there, and there was actually a guy that was a member who had went and looked at it for himself and another guy. He met the same guy, his name, everything was, it was who he said he was, and it was at the address where he said it was. They looked at it, and they decided to pass because of rust. I was naive, figured, what's a little bit of rust? I still wanted to pursue it. Went back and forth negotiating with the guy a little bit, and finally just told him, 19 is my final number. It's got too much rust. I've got to ship it for him. It was in right outside of Orlando. He just didn't want to go down that low, and then finally he called me a couple days later and was like, fine, let's just do the deal. In my head, this is a huge win. I'm getting a G-Wagon. The next day, I got a check overnighted to him, and he received it, confirmed that with me. And so I went ahead and proceeded to set up the shipping for it. And that's when things kind of started getting like a little uncomfortable, because he was a lot less responsive after that. So I found out with the check, he actually went and took it to the bank to try to cash it. Apparently, when he went to try to cash it, they told him that they were going to need a bunch of other information because it was going to report over a certain amount, the 10,000, etc. And so he decided to only take $9,800 and deposit the rest. He didn't have an account there, so he had to open an account in order to deposit it. It turns out I worked for the bank. When this started happening, it afforded me the ability to get in touch with the right departments and the right people, probably a lot more swiftly than a typical situation might have been. I started immediately having them kind of look into that. What was the deal? He came back the next day and cashed the other portion of it. So they didn't have to do the 10,000 IRS reporting thing. And so at that point I was like, well, he's got the money and I don't have a G-Wagon. So he did finally respond, and he was out of town, he was doing this, he was doing that. I'm like, okay, I get it, but let's get this thing picked up. So we figured out a time for the trucker to come by. Everything was set up. The trucker's calling me. He's like, I've been here for an hour banging on the door. I'm like, let me call the guy. No answer. The guy stays there for 3 hours. He's like, I got another car I gotta go pick up, so sorry. Which is completely understandable. I'm surprised that he stayed there for 3 hours trying to get a hold of this guy. At that point, I realized that maybe this was gonna get a little bit more serious than I thought. That was actually the last time I ever had any communication with the seller at all. He completely ghosted me after that. At that point, I did text him because he was clearly receiving my texts, and I told him that I'd try to pursue this in a more legal manner if I had to, but I didn't really want to do that. I really just wanted the truck. After about 3 or 4 weeks of just complete radio silence, I felt like it was time to go ahead and do something, you know? So I contacted the police down there, and I was like, here's what happened. Now, I will say, before I sent them a check, I did get a signed bill of sale. And that is the only reason why this was able to be possible for me to even call them and then to take my call. If I had not had that bill of sale, I would have had no right to that truck whatsoever. And so I had that along with all the other documentation, which I was just very confused because everything had added up. Everything made sense. The guy was real. All of his information he gave me was real. You know, you'd think if you're going to scam somebody, you might not give them your actual address, you know, your actual name, your real phone number. So it was all just strange, the whole thing. So I got a hold of the police down there, and they got me to a detective who was like, all right, let me try to figure this out. And it was kind of interesting because he was like, the truck probably never existed. You know, this guy's probably not even real. And I'm like, no, he's real. Let me give you all the information I have on a silver platter because I've looked into this just a little bit. And he was like, that doesn't make any sense. There's no way, you know, that's not how these things work. We see these things every day. The truck's not real. The guy's not real. He's like, you're probably just out of luck. You know, I sent him everything I had, and after a few conversations, he was like, it seems like it's real, but there's no way someone would be this dumb. You know, and I'm like, that's what I was thinking too. But here I am. And so he actually went to the guy's house, knocked on the door, talked to him. And they said initially that after I paid for it, I ghosted them. And he didn't know what to do, so he just thought he'd keep the money in the truck. So, you know, no harm, no foul, I guess was what he was trying to say. Obviously, I had all the documentation and proof where, you know, I even had a trucker there trying to get a hold of him, all the texts, the calls, so that was easily provable. At that point, we were able to move forward with, I think they got served papers, you know, for this to go to court and try to figure out what was going to happen from there. Now, keep in mind, from the time that I actually initially contacted the police to the point where they went and knocked on this guy's door was months, probably 5 to 6 months. And so this whole time I'm just dying, a little more every day. And to them, it's not a priority because this is one of thousands of these cases, and I'm just another one of those idiots that wanted a G Wagon, you know? It took a lot of convincing, and actually Ben and I did a lot of the legwork for them in trying to find out as much information on these people as possible. When the detectives finally did go, they called me, talked to the guy. You know, he tried to say that I ghosted him, and at that point they came back to me, and we went through the documentation to prove that that was not true again. And so we went ahead to proceed with serving the paperwork. From the time when they actually went and talked to him to when we actually served them papers was another 4 to 5 months, I believe. But at that point, we did get a court date set up. They went, and I was like, do I need to go? You know, what? And fortunately, I never had to go. The guy called me, the detective, and was like, this is the strangest case I've ever seen. He's like, these people have no record. They're crystal clean. They've never done anything illegal ever. And he gave you all of his real information. You know, he's like, if he was going to scam you or stiff you, you had everything. I'm like, I know, a year ago that I gave you guys. But here we are. And so since he had no previous record or anything, they were able to do some kind of deal where they would, if he would pay us X amount up front, which normally it was, I think, 50%, and then they would set the rest up over like a payment plan. They were like, due to the nature of it and the amount, you know, we can try to make that a higher amount if you'd be willing to accept that. I'm like, well, what's the alternative? It's like, he goes to jail. I'm like, okay, let's try to get my money back. So we settled where I think they gave me like $15,000 up front. They had 2 months or something to come up with $15,000, and then the remaining, however much it was supposed to be given monthly installments over the course of a year. It was 2.5 years before I finally got all the money back. All I can say is make sure you get your bill of sale.
We all love Amazon, but most of us have had that experience where you buy something with a lot of glowing reviews that shows up and is just a piece of garbage, and it wasn't what you thought you were buying. Unfortunately, Amazon can be full of bad actors and fake reviews and things that just don't live up to what you think is going to come in a day or two after you order it. That's why New on Amazon has been developed. It was developed by Patrick Kupolari, a friend of the channel, a good storyteller who's talked about BMWs and McLaren F1s and things like that, and he's a huge e-commerce expert, and you can learn more about that on his YouTube channel. But he built a site of trusted sellers, well-reviewed products, and things that he actually knows will show up looking the way that you want them to. And so it's a great way to filter out some of the noise and some of the bad products that you might otherwise discover on Amazon. So check out New on Amazon at the link in the description below, and thank them for supporting VINwiki this month.